Hi, this is Creative Love Radio, episode number 11, From Desire to Destiny. If you're one of those people that feel as though you keep trying to have the best intentions but get the opposite result, you're not getting the love you want, you need to listen to the show. We're going to tell you what is happening and how to turn your love life around. Welcome to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. We are redefining relationships to guide you to greater love, more success, and living your purpose through the latest research in neuroscience, Jungian psychology, and Eastern wisdom. Get ready for another inspirational episode of Creative Love Radio. Okay, Rob, we're talking about destiny today.
Our favorite topic.
Yes, and speaking of destiny, we have our 3-day event coming to LA in October called Destiny. And if you're interested in attending, just let us know. Just reach out to us. We can tell you how to get tickets. It's going to be a great event about how do you create your desires in life, whether it's love or success or living your purpose. It's going to be a great event, and we hope you come see us. And also want to remind everyone to go to our group and join us on Creative Love Gurus, our Facebook group. Just do a search for Creative Love Gurus. Ask to become a member. It's absolutely free. We'd love to hear from you and hear feedback about the show, and then you'll keep posted on all the shows there as well.
Absolutely.
So what do you have to say about destiny today, Rob? What is your destiny?
Well, once in a while we get to bring out our secret weapon, which is the Eastern philosophy, Eastern wisdom traditions. And it's a really cool idea. It's from the Upanishads. Those of you that are not familiar with the Upanishads, they're really one of the oldest spiritual literatures in the world. And it has a beautiful quote on destiny that goes something like this. It says, "You are your deepest driving desire. As your deepest driving desire is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. And as your deed is, so is your destiny." So we see the direct line from your deepest driving desire to becoming your destiny.
You are as your deepest driving desire.
Yeah.
And so when we look at our life and look at the results we're getting, that means that's our deepest driving desire. And a lot of people say, well, I don't desire to be single. I don't desire to have this broken heart. I don't desire for my ex to cheat on me. So how does that work, right?
What happened?
Yeah, what happened? We all have good intentions. They say the road is paved, the hell is paved with good intentions. I think, this idea that we all think that if we consciously set our mind right and visualize. And I remember seeing The Secret back in the day. I think we had just met and The Secret came out. And I was working with people with hypnosis. And I remember everyone thinking, if I just put a vision board up, and I think positive that I can get rich and I can find love and all those things. But I knew that the unconscious, they're not really addressing that. And they talked about it, but they really didn't address it. And so all of this mass people thought, if I just put that vision board up, if I just think positive, I can really change my life. And even the idea of like listening to visualizations, and that if I could just visualize every day, and see a picture in my mind, it'll just magnetize out.
If only it were that easy.
Oh, if it was that easy, right?
So the deepest driving desire, the key term here is deepest, which really means that it's unconscious. We're not conscious of it. That's why it's deep. It's deep in the mind. The driving part is that's what's propelling you forward, right? And then that turns into the way you apply your will. The will becomes the way you act in the world, and the way you act in the world, those habitual patterns of behavior, determine your destiny, determines whether you're successful, whether you have love, whether you live in a mansion or an apartment. It's that domino effect. Now, the key point here also is that the mind is the source. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think it's out there, right? That if I go out there and work really hard and apply the will and my work, my deeds in a certain way, I'm going to get certain results. And to some extent they do. But often we see, and most of the time we see, that people don't really actually get exactly what they want because they're not fully conscious of their deepest driving desire.
And, it's interesting. A lot of time, right after I met you and other people you see online, I see people on Facebook all the time asking, what's the best dating app to use? And what's the best place to meet someone? And it's always, we always say the same thing. It's not in the vehicle. It's not in the vehicle. You do have to take action, but your action isn't really what's going to give you the result. It's what's in the mind. So two people can join Match.com, and one can have a very different experience than another. And so, and then also too, like action. There's like people think, well, if you act a certain way on dates, or, the dating tips will say, wait 3 days and don't act this way and don't talk about this on a first date and don't sleep too soon and all these things that matters. That's going to make someone fall in love with you or match you up with the right person if you do all the right things. And then even when a relationship ends, we think, well, that's why it ended. It's because of my action. But that's not really it. It's really, we have to take a step back. And even going to the will is our intention. And even if you think about just between the step and the gap between our intention and our actions, how much there's a gap there, even that we're conscious of, right? I intend to lose weight, but I'm not going to go to the gym today. Or I really like those French fries, right? We just have this so much that we're not conscious or have control over if we don't have control over our mind.
Right. So we can think of the mind in two parts. The conscious part, which we know, when you look inside your mind, you hear your thoughts and you see symbols, images, etc. And then there's the unconscious part, which we cannot see. It's unconscious by definition, meaning you can't see it. You don't have access to it. So the deepest driving desire is in the unconscious. Now, part of it is conscious. I mean, the things that we want, we're well aware of those things. But if you want to see, if you want to understand what is truly in my unconscious mind, because we cannot look at it directly,
because it's not conscious,
because it's the unconscious. All you have to do, or all we have to do, is look at our results, our destiny, right? Because remember, there's a direct line from the mind to your destiny, meaning your results. So whatever results you've gotten so far, and wherever you're at, look around. Where are you living? What kind of work do you do? What kind of relationships do you have or don't have? That is a reflection of your unconscious, deepest driving desire.
I heard a great quote once. Someone said that we always have the relationship we want to be in. Mm-hmm. And it's really, a lot of people will fight that at first. Like, I don't want to be in this, but you're choosing to be. How many times have we stayed in a relationship that isn't satisfying? Why do we do that? Because our mind is saying, this is as good as it gets, or maybe it's saying that this person will change, right? But we're still choosing to be there. Right. And so then what happens is that our choices over time reinforce that desire and basically keep us in that feedback loop. We keep seeing the same story over and over again.
Right, and it's so difficult to break that cycle, primarily because what you're seeing then confirms your deepest unconscious beliefs. Mm-hmm. You're seeing it as, this is the result that I get through my actions, through my hard work. I work really hard, and this is what I get. Confirms then your not only your conscious beliefs, but your unconscious kind of the assumptions that you're making about life. So does that mean we're stuck and that we're just going to have to live with whatever we're getting? Absolutely not.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm sure some people are thinking, well, how did this deepest driving desire get there in the first place? Before we tell them how to change it, like why would I desire to be single? Why would I desire to not have enough money? Like, it just doesn't make logical sense.
Yes. The answer is that the mind adapts, and in adapting to especially early experiences, it creates certain defenses and assumptions that we're not conscious of, right? And the adaptation works when we're growing up and we're developing our persona, our ego. It works. And so in the beginning, there's no need to change it. It's essentially serving us to assume whatever we're assuming, and it helps us survive. It helps us kind of get along in life. But if you do not go back and examine that unconscious part of your mind that was kind of programmed from early experiences, it'll operate continuously in your life. And those assumptions then will become what you experience as your external destiny, as your results.
And wouldn't you say, I believe that most reasons why we don't have what we want consciously is because there's unconsciously a fear around having it, or there's some kind of conflict inside that we're not seeing. Like the external conflict out there, like I want this, but I'm not having it, is an internal conflict.
Right.
And so a good example would be outside of love, just a general example. I remember first working with a client years ago, I mean, way in the beginning, was someone who really tried really hard to be successful. They did all the right things. They would always lose their job. And, we would do, visualize and be confident and all these things. And then what it got to is that he had a lot of resentment against his father and the way his father treated him. And if he became successful, he couldn't be mad at his father anymore or blame his father anymore. So there was this kind of weird dual desire, right? The desire to have success, but a stronger desire to be right. And to hang on to that story and that anger and that feeding like you did me wrong. There was some kind of power in that. And so the deeper desire was really to not be successful, because then he can keep that story going. So it was like very indirect, but that's how sneaky it can become. So just like with love, we want love. Like, what is that indirect payoff that we get unconsciously that we bought into, some kind of story that we bought into that keeps us safe or keeps us in some kind of sense of power?
Yeah, and you hit on something that's really important, is that it's an emotional reaction.
Yes.
That
it's not logical.
Responding to, yeah. And if you think about the way we grow up, as children, we don't have the capacity to think cognitively through every situation that arises, but we're very instinctual and we respond in this emotional way. We read every situation emotionally, and we create those defenses accordingly. People that experience, for example, a sense of abandonment, even if it didn't happen, but just their interpretation was that there's a fear of abandonment, they're going to create a very guarded sense of their emotions. They're going to defend their heart, in other words. When it comes to relating, then, they'll be very guarded. They'll want the relationship, and they say, I love this person, I want to be with him. But those unconscious emotional components will play a part and
almost sabotage the relationship, or
they might, yes.
Yeah.
And so the key is that we can access those deeper parts of the mind, And luckily, Jung kind of gave us a map of the unconscious, which we can go in and transform a lot of that emotion.
And one of the things we don't want to do, this isn't really about clearing a belief or something or getting rid of anything.
Good point. Yeah.
It's about empowering, like that part of our mind that wants us, that kind of set up that defensiveness or that protection. It's just like, it's okay to, it's doing a job. And actually it means it's a sign of a healthy mind that we have these mechanisms in place to help us survive. But as we grow up, we don't need all those old mechanisms anymore. We don't need the training wheels anymore. We can take them off. But our psyche just doesn't feel that comfortable. It's almost like getting outside of our comfort zone when we step outside of those old conditioned responses. So when we look at the deepest driving desire, how we really look at it is not just say, I desire to be single, or I desire to have people that cheat all the time, or I desire to have people that always live in another town. I never get to meet someone in my town, or someone who's always younger, or whatever it is, right? That it's not attainable. I always start with, well, what would be the benefit? I mean, what would be so scary about actually having your desire? Like having what you consciously want. There must be some emotion or fear around that. Like so if you found the love of your life, and it really interesting is a lot of times I'll tell my clients, they'll have a guy come on so strong or a woman come on really strong with them. And I said, whatever they trigger in you, that's really where we're getting at here. You can't really get at the deepest driving desire from a logical standpoint. You have to kind of get to that feeling. So
you have to be
the
triggered.
Guy that calls you 50 times and you're feeling that anxiety or like, he's annoying or whatever, that's how we get to what that desire is. What is it defending, and why is it such a threat to have someone be so into you? Your logical mind will say, well, he's just not good looking enough, or he's, or she's not pretty enough, or they're not, my type or whatever, and I'm not interested. But if you weren't just not interested, you wouldn't have an emotional reaction. You'd be like, yeah, okay, sorry, I'm not interested. but we have this like strong emotional response, and then we know that there's something there. It's not just about a preference. It's like they're really pulling at me, and they're actually pushing on that fear of connection, that fear of love and intimacy.
Right. And yeah, a lot of people mistake those situations for blocks or obstacles or some kind of pathology, right? They think, oh, maybe I need therapy and my parents screwed me up and all that stuff. But the way we see it is those are opportunities for us to see the deeper mind. Whenever those situations arise, we are very grateful and thankful that, oh my God, here's my opportunity. I can now see what's underneath. Right? Because it's the emotion that we're trying to get at. And Jung says, without emotion, there's no transformation. Mm-hmm. You're going to basically be very logical and very safe, but you're not going to transform that energy. You need to emote. You need to feel things. So when we're triggered, when the emotions arise, that's our opportunity. That's one of the biggest opportunities. And then we can look at the story that the mind creates around that emotion. I'm not treated right. There's no good men or women out there. Every time I fall in love, I get hurt. On and on, right? We all know our little story, that we carry around in our head. That's our ego mind. Nothing wrong with it. It was there, again, to defend us, protect us, make sure we survived. But now we want to transform it. We want to change it. We want to open up and use the energy of the emotions that most people find stifling or blocking. We're going to transform that energy into creative love. Right? Emotions are the fuel of the psyche. It's what makes it run, right? If you think about inspiration, it is the most powerful fuel. It motivates us. It inspires us. It gives us visions of the future, ideas that we've never had before. it's all emotion.
Well, love too. I mean, if we didn't have that desire for another person, why would we put ourselves in these positions where we're going out to dinner or for a drink with a total stranger? Like, why would we even do this or even talk to strangers if we didn't have this urge to merge and have the, desire to connect on that level? So it's a very powerful energy, but it kind of it dances on that edge of danger, right? Because it is so powerful. It's almost like a lot of people are afraid to be consumed by it. And so growing up, and this is not, people who had the best parents in the world have, fears of getting close. I mean, we all do. It's a human experience, right? It's not anything pathological at all. This is something that we always do. But the energy, I love what you said, is the energy of the soul, the psyche. It really, it's what compels us to move and grow. And so we don't want to get rid of it. We don't want to push away so-called negative emotions. We want to bring them in and understand them. So I think what we really want to do first, though, before we get to the emotion, is if we really want to look at our deepest driving desire, we have to first accept the fact that we create our life, that the world out there is a reflection of our mind, that it's not operating this independent, random luck of me not just meeting the right person at the right time. It's reflecting of our mind. It's not, I hope I think positive and then magnetically send this vibration out that's going to bring back a partner. It's like, no, that it's like a movie, like you're the projector and you are seeing your mind in the situations in the world. And if your mind can't hold the idea of love or true love, you're not going to see it online. You're not going to see it if you go on Match.com or eHarmony, or I guess it's the new one, Tinder, and there's Bumble now. I don't even know anymore.
Yeah,
I sound like an old lady. But it is that. What is it? How are you looking at the search for love as a reflection of your mind? Is that person a reflection of you, or is it, just randomly some soulmate is going to come in and when the timing's right?
Yeah, that is a hard concept for people to accept, that what they are observing in their results, in their destiny, is really reflecting their own desire. It can be a hidden desire, right? That deepest driving desire, but it's nevertheless your desire. In other words, that's the way we create our world.
Mm-hmm. And when we say desire, there's a difference between your unconscious desire and your conscious will. So you have a conscious desire to have love, but it's the unconscious will that doesn't bring that love, that there's the conflict, right? And so if you look out there and you see consciously I want this, I'm getting the opposite, that means there's some conflict internally. So it doesn't mean that you unconsciously don't want love. It's just that there's a stronger desire to not have it. And so that stronger desire, it's actually the ego. Fear is a much stronger emotional response than joy. Because if you think about it, fear is really that old part of our brain that's kicking in for survival. So that's, of course, going to have a stronger reaction for us and a stronger hold than aspirational kind of ideas, right? And so we have to kind of get to what is the fear there? What is what am I defending against? And it's not that, everyone's like, love is greater than fear. What do you mean? But I'm talking about a physical, visceral response. Is that how we're programmed? Is by the more intense the energy, that is what always wins. Is the most intense. So if you are driving down the road and someone goes out in front of you, your intense energy really is to survive. So you're going to go off the side of the road, even though that might be dangerous too. It's always like the best thing, to get away from the immediate danger. And so our mind kind of gets programmed that way. And so that's why it doesn't make logical sense. Like, why would I just pull off the side of the road? But because there was someone in front and I want that to happen. So we kind of make these choices and they get locked in and we don't understand how they get, we forget that we put them there.
Yeah. And you mentioned the conflict, right?
Yeah.
So when there is this internal conflict, let's say the conscious mind wants to step on the gas, but the unconscious mind is stepping on the brake. that's an internal conflict. It will show up as an external situation, right? That's what Jung says, that the internal conflict will show up as an external situation and play out that way. So especially when you keep repeating or you keep seeing similar situations that arise, you can pretty much bet that's your internal conflict, right? That there's a push and pull towards love, and approach and retreat element.
And that happens not only in just being single and not single, but even in the relationship. If you see your partner, acting a certain way, and then that you don't want them to act, it's reflective of something in you. Like, what is that triggering in you? Not to say that they're maybe not doing something that you like, a preference, but the conflicts show up in a lot of different areas. And I really like what you said about the external conflict showing up. I think most people are playing with the external conflict. They're playing on the outside world. They're very externalized, and they think, well, if I shift what I'm doing,
right,
or if I leave this person, or if I maybe do more visualization, then that conflict, like they're doing things externally to make the change versus looking at what's going on inside of me.
Yeah.
If I try harder, maybe, right?
Well, yeah, it's easier to blame other people, of course, than
those men in New York City. They only want girls that are 20 years old, and there's no men in California, and
Right, you're off the hook when you can blame the external world, the external situation. But the hardest part is accepting full responsibility.
Yes.
But it's also the biggest payoff, because that means then you have the reins of your life. You take the reins of your destiny. And it does require, of course, looking inward. In the East they call this introspection. Instead of trying to analyze the situation externally, you're asking what's going on internally that situation is reflecting, or that's a reflection of that internal situation. And that requires some maturity, of course, right? Most people don't do it until they start to hit their 30s, mid-30s, early 40s. Then it's time to look inward and ask, how have I been creating all these situations in my life?
And the desire that we have the ability to create what we want. And I think I want to leave with the last note is to not be frustrated with yourself. Like, it's not to blame yourself that you're getting a result that you don't want, and that darn deepest driving desire, and it's all my fault. But it's more, like you said, empowering. And I remember anytime I felt this kind of fear that I wanted a goal and it wasn't showing up, there was a sense of peace knowing that I had the internal resources to transform the external. And just to know that gives you a sense of peace. Even if you don't know how to do it yet, I want you all to think, I have the power inside. Like, I'm not powerless. And even just admitting that and asking your deeper mind to show you the way, you're going to start to have dreams. You're going to start having insights. You're going to start to see patterns that you wouldn't see before. And really ask yourself, like, what is the benefit that I get from not having what I want? What's the threat here? That if I got that, what would be the downside? And that would be a great place to start, and then pay attention to that emotion that arises when you're working around.
Yeah, that's a good point. We all have the internal resources to do this because it's part of our nature. Mm-hmm. Just as it's part of our nature to create a persona, an ego, and defend ourselves and, kind of protect ourselves as we go out into the world, we also have the resources to transform all this and take the reins of our life, to create in a conscious way our deepest driving desire. Mm-hmm. Therefore, our destiny will become what we wish it to be.
And I think it comes down to, is it the ego's desire to defend and protect and keep you in the same pattern? Or is it a divine desire, which is a divine desire is for growth and more life and more expression. So when you come from that place, like I want love from a deeper place. I want love for expression, for creativity, for inspiration, versus I want love to just survive. And a really beautiful way to shift that. You get your deepest driving desire, align with the design, the design, the divine. So great topic today. Another great topic. I always love these shows. Great to spend some time with you, Dr. Rob.
Same here.
And we are going to see you next time on Creative Love Radio. Be sure to tune in to our show every week. And we have a Facebook group. If you're interested, Creative Love Gurus, you can join. It's absolutely free, and join the rest of the community there. And really excited to continue the journey. And don't forget to write a review on iTunes for us. We'd love to hear those reviews, and give us feedback. Let us know what topics you'd like us to talk about, and we will bring them up. Bring us your questions, and we're more than happy to bring them up on the show.
Thanks for tuning in. Much love.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. You've been listening to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. For more information, visit us on our website at creativelove.com.